All right, thank you for joining us on our special coverage of the Ondo governorship election, where we have our correspondents scattered across the state to bring us up to speed with developments with regards to the election. And we have been getting that all the while this morning. So far, so good. We have seen stories coming out of the Central Senatorial District, where we have a senior political correspondent, Ayodele Ozubakum, also speaking with us. Sarah Yeku is in Okitipupa on the south, also telling us about developments there. And we saw some interesting issues that came up there. And we also have Ayo Murade, who also brought us up to speed. But we must also let you know that the governor of the state, Lucky Ayedatiwa, has cast his ballot in Ilaje. And he has said that the process so far has been smooth. And he commended INEC for ensuring that they started the process early enough. We also have reports here where the Ondo State Deputy Governor Olaide Adelami has voted at his polling unit at Ahmadiyya Secondary School in Owo, and that's the picture there of him casting his ballot. He described the process as peaceful and transparent. He also commended early arrival of materials at the polling unit. Well, that is the Deputy Governor about to make his comment there. We'll definitely bring that for you later on. But joining us now to talk about the process so far is Biodun Sowunmi, a public affairs analyst. It's good to have you join us. Good morning.
I'm pleased to be here. Good morning.
Great. Now, you have been monitoring the process and how it has been going on at the various polling units. And my first question to you is, knowing Ondo State as a state of persons or people who are politically aware, are you surprised with how things have panned out so far? The fact that there are concerns about voter apathy and then the process of INEC handling the process too.
I'm not too much concerned about the preparation towards it. Many people have accepted the fact that INEC has done a good job with logistics. They managed to get things to the right places at the right time, at least in 95% of all the cases, so which is more than pass mark. There is a marked improvement in INEC's logistics on this occasion, better than Edo, in my view. Then you also have the security services. They are all on ground, well ready to make sure that nothing goes wrong. We've had commitments, statements made by the IG, by the civil defense and all other security agencies. Their determination that, look, security officials should not be partial. They should be non-partisan, do their job professionally. And we've also seen EFCC officials on the ground, because the major concern, there are two major concerns in Ondo elections currently. One is voter apathy. The second one is the vote buying will come in to change the picture. And depending on who can pay the highest. There are figures being bandied around of 20,000 per vote or 30,000 per vote. No one knows what is true from what is not true currently. But the fact of the matter is we have all the necessary agencies of government, in place to ensure that this can be kept at the barest minimum, or if not stopped completely through apprehension of suspects. So how this will work out eventually in the course of the voting, we don't know until the end of the day. But when you again look at the configurations of the election taking place, you will realize that 16 out of the 17 candidates in this election are from one particular area, which is the South. They're from Ondo South Senatorial District, and that will make Ondo South a highly contested area. The current incumbent governor, Ayedatiwa, is from Ilaje, and then you have the main challenger, which is Agbola from Ondo. Yes. Both of them have been deputy governors, particularly under Accreditation, one in the first term, the other one in the second term, and they both know each other very well. So you have flashpoints area like Ileoluji, Igbo, Idonri will also be another flashpoint. You should expect some measure of issues, or complaints coming from Ondo North, simply because of one reason. The deputy governor for Ayedatiwa is from the north. And that's where, that's where, the Owo and all these people are. In the north, what you have now is a Edo South and a Edo North ticket. But the other major contenders chose to pick Central, which is the Akure axis, Ondo Akure axis, with their own candidate, also from the south. But how this will play out eventually remains to be seen. The fact of the matter is south is not as populated as north and central, which is a major factor. So everything depends on where central goes, which is Akure and Ondo. Your guess is as good as mine because we only need to look at the gladiators. We are the Mimikos, we are the Alasho Adura, Tayo Alasho Adura, and so many others. We are they. Then you have the incumbent minister, for internal affairs, also from the north. There are a lot of factors that will work one way or the other. There are also top politicians like Dairo and others, coming on the side of Agboola. But how all this will pan out depends on how the electorates view it. The voter apathy issue will be a major problem in many places for different reasons, not necessarily because of they don't like Agboola or they don't like Ayedatiwa. No, far from it. It's just that when you look at the trend, even in the United States, less and less people tend to get involved with the democratic process for so many reasons.
So what would be the reasons now for people of Ondo State, from your perspective?
In the case of Ondo State, there are so many, we are in a very challenging economic times, and there's that factor. And therefore, some people might be looking for some way of handing some money through the electoral process, the vote buying. If the money is not coming, they probably will stay at home. The other issue is when you look at the demography of particularly the South, then you have areas which are riverine areas, which may not easily be accessible for people. You are talking of Irele, Okitipupa axis, so it may not easily be accessible. It depends on where the polling booths are. So that could also contribute to voters' apathy. But you should expect good turnout in Akure or Ondo.
We've spoken to some of our colleagues, and the turnout isn't looking encouraging from the feedback they were given to us from the places you mentioned.
How about looking at credibility, trusting in the process, trusting in the electoral umpire? Do you think this could also be a reason for voter apathy?
Yes, but I don't think it's about trust. You need to look at what has happened, particularly with the opposition parties. PDP is totally in disarray.
Sorry. Can't mention the parties now,
But some parties are totally in disarray. One just had the candidate changed, through the court's decision, the appeal court ruled.
Could you just hold your thought for a bit? We need to quickly move over now to our correspondent, Olaide Oyewole, to quickly bring us up to speed. He is in the Elijah area where the governor actually cast his ballot earlier on, and he commended the process. But bring us up to speed with how the process went for the governor and for the people, what they are saying.
So I was saying that the governor got here at exactly 8:45 and he voted at exactly 8:50. That's 5 minutes after his arrival to his hometown. So it shows that the officials are fully ready for the people to cast their ballots. So far from my observations, and the voters' turnout have been very, very encouraging, and people are coming to vote, and those who are waiting are waiting behind, and those who are leaving immediately are leaving immediately. So far, it's been peaceful here. And like I said, the governor commended the officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission for getting prepared for the people very, very early. Well, I spoke with one or two persons here, and they said they got here at exactly 7 o'clock. So people traveled down from Akure and other parts of Ondo State since yesterday, and they said they got here about 7 o'clock, and they started voting around 8 o'clock, and the process has not there has not been any form of violence. So I was able to speak with one or two persons also who said that the reason why the voters turnout is encouraging here is because, according to one of them, he said this place, especially the riverine area, has been marginalized, and the people are here massively to vote for their person, so that, of course, the both of them are from the riverine area, so they are here massively to vote for whoever is going to win, and so that they can concentrate more efforts, or they can concentrate development here around the riverine area.
Like especially the machines, they've been working well. The security agencies, have they acted impartially? Talk to us, what's going on?
So there has not been any record of failure of the beavers and other the beavers. So the people are just coming. If you can see from behind, people are just coming. They get accredited. They get accredited rather. After getting accredited, they move down to where they are supposed to cast their ballot. They cast their ballot. For the security personnel here, it's been peaceful. So there has not been any reason for them to, be violent on any person, or there has not been any cause for them to try to caution people from engaging in any act of violence here. So, so far, the people are waiting for the vote to end so that the counting can begin immediately after the vote.
Incidents of voter inducement by certain persons.
Here, there has not been any form of vote buying or trying to induce voters to vote for a particular political party. So I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so there has not been any form of vote buying here and all of that. In fact, you would hardly recognize party agents here because they are all here just observing the whole situation here. The governor, when he came here, he spoke to residents around himself. He met with the traditional leader here. He spoke with him, and what he said is that the people should be peaceful. And so far, they have been peaceful. They have obeyed what their governor has said. And so it's been peaceful here.
All right. Olaide will definitely keep tabs with you on developments coming out of where you are. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's bring the conversation back to the studio now. You were speaking to the question he asked earlier on, I think, about the process.
Yes.
Yes, on the issue of voter apathy and trust. I don't think it's about trust or distrust.
Trusting the umpire to have a transparent, carry out a transparent and credible
I don't think
process.
that's what it is. You would always have people complaining one way or the other. I mean, we've had reports of, we don't trust INEC, but is it really true? It's just a matter of, it depends on, if it goes your own way, then you trust INEC. If it doesn't go your own way, you don't. That's the way of politicians. We all know that. But when you actually look at other factors that would account for voters' apathy, you realize that the supporters of some political parties which have issues currently are not likely going to come out. If you have a candidate being replaced at the last minute who has not even campaigned, no, what do you expect? His own supporters probably would stay, back because they are disaffected, with the decision of the Court of Appeal, one way or the other. And parties where you have issues, you are likely going to see people, staying back, thinking, well, it's a lost cause. What would happen eventually? We will lose it. So that would account for some issue. But you might eventually see a late surge in some areas, where you're likely going to see people coming out, being mobilized and coming out towards the end of the day, particularly between 2 and 6. So it's not impossible that the voters' turnout will still improve, but don't expect significant improvement because of the, it's a two-horse race now. You're talking of 17 political parties, and if it's that situation, many other supporters will think, why do I need to go and waste my time? Okay. And not because they don't trust the process, not because they don't trust INEC, but people just felt this election is predictable one way or the other.
Is it really predictable? There are those
is.
who think that there might be a political shift and are wondering that perhaps this could swing in any direction, but also that perhaps history might repeat itself.
Oh, there are dynamics going on. When you look at in the north and central, what's on their mind of the top politicians in those areas? They see a situation where a particular person cannot go for another time again after this one term, and then they think this is better than someone else who will come and do 2 more times.
So you think power been
so there are a lot of politics going on, and then they would rather mass support if they think you won't be able to do more than 1 term, and then they would rather support that person than for whatever reasons. It's not about it's not about policies, it's just about practical politics, not policies.
When you say practical politics, I'm interested in what you mean by that, because for the people, it will be about policies, but the people who are playing the game are looking at practical politics.
Yes.
So break that down for us.
Oh, practical politics. You know how many people came out that wanted to contest the primaries? In all the parties, we had contentions, in all the parties. So they came out, they wanted to contest. The bottom line at the end of the day is one person or the other will become the candidate. Absolutely. Now, then practical politics will now come in and say, look, okay, how is it in my interest if Biodun Sowunmi contest election and he would use 2 terms, and instead Wale contest that election, he would only have the opportunity of using 1 term simply because he has been sworn in once. So it means the time I will only need to wait for one time just to have another opportunity. That's playing up in the minds of politicians. Don't forget, it will no longer go to south. It's coming to the north or central. So it will weigh heavily in their minds. That's where you're likely going to see politicians from Ifedore and all other areas, Ondo, Akure.
Looking at the issues practically.
From practical politics, not policies, or not issue of governance, but practical politics.
Interesting.
Okay, now, for whoever emerges, what should the people of Ondo be looking out for?
Well, I think if we are to be fair, Ayedatiwa has not had the opportunity, of full opportunity of a time, so it's difficult to assess him. In the same way, Agbola, too, the PDP candidate...
don't mention political parties.
Oh, sorry.
But just...
all the candidates, to be fair, have not had the opportunity of a full term to be able to assess them. But what I see going on is that, particularly in the South has been marginalized over a long period of time. I think it's Agagu that came to make a difference. I remember how the road between Okitipupa to Oderele, and even the difficulty in crossing at that point in time, we used to use boat. So, but it's all changed now. You can easily ride through.
Well, there are still issues of infrastructure development, because when Sarah spoke with one of the voters, he was saying, let them make life easy, especially good roads, school fees, reducing the fees, and then just making life easy for the people.
It's improving now. The road infrastructure is improving. To be honest, I think it started with Agagu, and several past governors have tried to invest marginally in the South, unlike in the Central, which is always where most of the attention will go. But it has improved significantly from what it used to be. But a lot still needs to be done, particularly in terms of creating businesses and opportunity for employment for people in the South. Many of them tend to move, apart from the oil industry, they tend to move towards Central to pick up employment. So a lot needs to be done in the South to ensure that they reduce the migration from the South in search of employment, to the Central. Right. So, and I think whoever wins the election, no matter who the person, 16 of them are from the South, they will try and address the infrastructural development with a view to create the enabling environment for the development, to act as a proxy for development of other economic sectors.
Yeah, Veronica, you talked about the inflation figure.
Yes, I mentioned earlier on, and it's about 37.20%.
Exactly.
That's quite high.
Very, very high. Out-of-school children.
And then the education, out-of-school children, we have 240,000.
So those are key issues that whoever emerges really needs to address. Now, how do we address this thing? It's not just about saying it, it's about walking the talk. So what are those things that need to be put on ground to get these things, sorted?
It's quite a big challenge, no doubt about that. But we can only begin to address them gradually. If you look at it, it's a very small percentage. If you actually take it, look at the overall...
but significant.
It's significant.
Yes.
If you look at the national figures, for out-of-school children, it's quite very, very...
about 22 million.
But it is very significant because Ondo State is noted. In fact, one of their major industries is education.
Absolutely.
So why would you have that situation, that high number? It's worrying, and I'm sure whoever emerges as the governor would need to attend that. Maybe a provision of building more schools and making them affordable, because it's one thing to build the schools. If people can't afford to pay for it, then that's a different thing. So I'm sure it's one of the issues that would have to be addressed. And it's not only that, you have the hospitals also. They need to increase health service provision, in the south particularly, and also build more road infrastructure. No doubt about that. The south has actually suffered over a long period of time, but it is improving in the last 15 years. Things have improved significantly.
Let's also look at agriculture, which is when we are talking about diversification and also looking at improving the economy of the states. That is one aspect that they can also look into. And they have had incidents of attacks on farmers and all of it. But if the next governor, what should he be looking at with regards to this? Because farmers are said to make up about over 13% of those who collected their PVCs and are also looking forward to, casting their ballot, I believe, because when we saw a majority of persons there, you could see that these people represent a cross-section of persons who are interested in the decisions of whoever comes to take over the affairs of the state at the end of the day. So what should the next person be looking at in terms of agriculture?
Yeah, agriculture is quite very important in Ondo State. Ondo State used to be known for cocoa. It used to be a big cocoa income earner, but that has declined over a number of years. But you have two sets of farmers in Ondo State. You have the, how do I put it? I'm trying to avoid resident farmers, and then you have the indigenous farmers in Ondo State.
Right.
And what do I mean by that? When you go to Odigbo, the whole farmers in Odigbo, which is a whole local government, Odigbo town itself, they are from Oyo and Osun states. They are not originally they are not indigenous. So you have that, and they are very, very important. They play major roles in agricultural output in Ondo State. So you have the other one. So in the past, we used to have a situation where government tends to favor the indigenous farmers, better than those resident farmers. So, but what we are likely going to see is that whoever emerges will now have to create a level playing ground for, particularly when it comes to distribution of fertilizers, with a view to ensure that all the farmers are treated equally, and then they can increase output. But one major sticking point for Ondo State, which nobody will ever deny, affecting farming, is kidnapping. Even the police will admit
security.
As much as that. It's terrible, it's so bad, and that government needs to do a little bit more, to improve the security situation, whether it's through the Nigerian police force or through the Amotekun or whichever outfit. They really need to move into the forest and create a secured environment for farmers to go to the farm. So security is one of the major factors affecting output, agricultural output in Ondo State.
All right, let's quickly look at some of the incidents that have happened with regards to this election. When we spoke with Sarah, who is in Okitipupa, Ondo South, there was the matter of thumb printing and showing. It happened and she spoke to us about it. And we also saw where the security agents were trying to calm the voters down and ensure some level of civility in the process. But speak to the issue of thumb printing and showing. It's supposed to be a secret ballot, but there are penalties for that. But we saw that happening openly. What does that say, especially on the part of the voters and perhaps voter education?
It's quite a very difficult one for many voters. Don't forget there are voters who are minded to sell their votes, no matter what. They are minded to sell their votes for one reason or the other. The problem you have is you are supposed to vote, secretly, and then you have somebody who's interested in proving that, look, I voted for you so that I won't forget. Because we've had allegations that people's account numbers, details have been collected before this day. So they don't really need to bring cash to the polling station, and then you get the credit in your account. Whether this is true or not, we don't know, because nobody has been arrested for that. Now, you have people who will be so desperate to sell their vote that they will be willing to let people see it and say, look, you see where I voted, so that they could get, there's that problem. It's not about voters' education. It's just that it's a deliberate thing. It's something, a willing act, something you want to do for pecuniary gains,
You think that if the voter understood the power of his vote, he or she will go ahead with that?
Oh, look, voters know the power of their votes. They do know. It depends on what's their interest. It's not everybody that went that will go to the voters to the booths, to vote, that is minded by objective considerations or governance issues. People are minded by different issues, and that is why you see some people, like my friend Killer, arguing against the concept of majority, that the majority takes uninformed position, whereas it's only informed minority that
look at the
focuses on governance and processes. Yeah. People vote, on different reasons. Oh, because I am a member of this party, that's why I'm voting. Not because of the policies of the party. Oh, because I like this person, or because this man is from my area, or is from my local government, that's why I'm voting for him. For mundane reasons, that you can't explain. So, and that's the nature of democracy. Eventually, there's nothing anybody can do about it. It's about majority participation in the process. It's not about the objective consideration that will inform decisions being taken by individual voters.
Okay. Now, talking about voter inducement, politicians are now so crafty that even before the election, they've already started distributing things, stomach infrastructure, rice, fertilizers. Cassava. It gets to the day of the election, you see that situation we talked about where they were showing. Now, how do we face out this issue of voter inducement from our democracy? Is it that we don't have enough laws to face it out, or we have the laws, but implementing the laws is the problem? Your thoughts here?
I'm afraid it's an integral part of presidential system of government. We saw it happening in America. We saw Burger.
Oh, okay.
We also saw...
I was surprised when I saw that.
We saw Burger being distributed. We also saw what Elon Musk tried to do, $1 million a day, like a lottery, those are voters' inducement. No doubt about it. It goes with presidential system of government. In order to face it out, you need to change the system, in my view, to parliamentary. The reason is because you are only concentrating on a small area. Okay. If you are contesting in local government, Kusofe, that is the only place where you need to campaign for vote. Okay. You don't need to go and campaign around the whole state. And then
could you just hold your thoughts for a bit? We need to quickly move over to Kiribo to speak with our correspondent, Ibrahim Alege, to bring us up to speed with how the process is going so far. Ibrahim, talk to us. What's happening now? Ibrahim, how is the process going in Kiribo? Ibrahim, if you can hear me, how is the process going in Kiribo?
And in fact, a former deputy governor of Ondo State is actually here now to cast his ballot, and everybody has been orderly here. But the only thing I notice here is that it's called a sunshine state, and of course the sun here is actually scorching. In fact, I have to pull off my suit, and a lot of people are actually complaining about the sun, and that's why the INEC officials are to move from one point to the other, especially to this shed, so that they will be able to continue with their activities. And lots of people have also been complaining about the slowness of the beavers, and because of the fact that they are under the scorching sun. So it's been the complaint has always been about the beavers machine because of its slowness. But now we have a former deputy governor of the state who is actually here. He's going through his accreditation, and thereafter he's going to be given his ballots to cast. And this is where that's the booth that is going to cast it, and of course drop it inside this box. So any moment from now, we're expecting to be fully accredited and also move towards this direction to actually, vote. Veronica.
All right, talk to us how the security agencies have been able to manage the situation. Yes, we know the sun is scorching, unfortunately, but how have the security agencies been able to calm the nerves of voters who are waiting under the scorching sun to cast their ballot?
Yes, the security officers have equally been orderly, and they've been able to control the situation. Nothing has gotten out of hand here in Kiribo, especially Unit 4, Ward 2, where Mr. Abuola Ajayi is about to cast his ballot. So everything has been orderly. The security, have done perfectly well, and there's no complaints as per the security aspect of the vote, at least in and around Kiribo, where I am currently.
And also the machines of INEC, no issues as well? No issues about, no incidents of voter inducement?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you clearly.
Yes, I was talking about the Beavers machine. They've been working efficiently, and also has there been incidents of voter inducement?
Well, the only issue we have with the beaver machine is that people complain about its slowness, or it's not that it's been malfunctioning, but I think it's about being patient, in order for people just to take it one step after the other and wait, for you to be fully and properly accredited. And the agitation majorly is because it's sunny, so that's why people are complaining about that. They want it to be as fast as possible so that they can quickly, cast their ballots and go back to their respective houses, or even hang around. But without that, they have to queue under the sun, and the sun here is scorching. So that's been the major complaint. And talking about vote buying, yes, I rumors flying around, but then it's not done in the open, so it's quite difficult for you to pinpoint somebody that is doing that. But of course, rumors are flying around about that.
All right, Ibrahim, will definitely get back to you for more details. Please try and get some shade to ensure that the scorching sun does not disrupt your flow as you, get across to us. Thank you. Let's bring back the conversation to the studio now. Sunshine State, actually, and
exactly.
it's actually proving that name. But then, talking about some of the things he raised, vote buying and all. I know we touched on beavers. That speaks to the preparation of INEC as well, if we may look at it in that way. Although, talking about network, that's something that INEC cannot necessarily control. But if you look at how the process has gone so far, in some areas or polling units, we saw that sensitive materials were not delivered on time, and INEC's preparation to take care of some issues like the scorching sun, ensuring that there are canopies.
Yes.
How do you evaluate how INEC has prepared for this process, seeing what our correspondents are saying?
Yeah, I think largely they've done better than I would expect, given INEC's record. I think they have improved significantly. We should not lose sight of the fact that there will be some little challenges, particularly with logistics, and that actually happened. INEC will have no control over a vehicle I had that broke down on the way of going to transporting materials. Just a measure of dysfunctionality should be expected.
But those who do not agree, they will say that, for instance, Prof. Anthony Killer says we should stop cutting them some slack, that they should have had thought about this to ensure that they put things in place, a strategic thinking of how to approach some of these issues.
Look, it's not necessarily true that they can solve all problems. How do you solve the problem of the sun? What led to the issue of
canopy?
They had the canopy.
But we didn't see canopies.
No, what happened? The network was slow. That was what led to build up of people.
Yes.
You know, if the network had, is working normally,
but do you really
people will have gone through and leave.
Left the place. No, but of course they want to wait to see.
Do you need network?
To see the process through.
Do you need network for accreditation? It's until when you want to upload that you need network.
Yes. Don't forget. You're saying
exactly.
I'm coming. You said they want to wait.
Yes, to see the process through.
Yeah, but would INEC want to encourage them when you have anxiety over violence and issues like that?
Why not?
At times you see security agencies asking people
to
leave, And then the cost of conducting election is so huge that if we are to factor providing canopies for those who have voted so that they can wait, you can imagine what would happen throughout the country. The police will not be able to police it. Think about general election, because whatever you do during off-cycle election should apply during general election.
Right.
So that will become a major challenge, where you have 500 people in every polling booth, waiting outside because they have provided the canopy and all that. Apart from the cost, the logistics, the cost of providing it, what about the security angle? How would you be able to manage that? Will that necessarily be encouraged by the security services? So there are a lot of issues. Not everything that we can blame on INEC. Yes, there are some things that get so bad. They don't have their own vehicles. We all know that.
In your opinion, do you think INEC is not well provided for?
Financially?
Yes.
I think INEC is well resourced. The ideal thing is for INEC to control all their resources, particularly for logistics. But you and I know the cost of doing that. That is, if INEC is to have all their vehicles, which they will not use until after 4 years, it doesn't make sense.
Or during off-cycle elections.
Or during off-cycle elections. So if you really look at it, I don't think that is the right way to go. What they are doing currently probably is the right way to go. They may need to look at whether they need to use more reliable companies, logistics companies, one way or the other, because you can vouch for their vehicles. But things do go wrong. Even with the best planning, things do go wrong.
Absolutely, things do go wrong. But there are just those who may not want to cut them some slack with regard to some of these issues, because they feel that they had ample time to plan, to prepare, and so they have no excuse.
And they even have experience, past elections.
Very good, because they also told us that this will be an improvement of their last performance. So if we are still seeing some of these things here and there, that's why questions like, no, they do not have any excuse. They should have learned.
Exactly. They don't control their logistics. That's the first problem. If you don't own the vehicles, you depend on other people. You have signed contracts with them. You don't even know the state of their vehicle. Once they get on the road and the vehicle breaks down.
Or the state of the road itself.
Or the state of the road itself.
Right.
There could be challenges.
But not just the vehicles. We saw our first report with Ayo, that after 8, they were just about distributing the materials. Now we also talked about the tents, canopies. Now, but with this, the INEC chairman said that we are going to see a different INEC today. Are we seeing a different INEC in this regard?
Until the end of the election, we can't conclude.
But looking at what we're seeing right now,
we don't know. Things can still happen. But if it continues like this, I think one can easily give them a pass back. If you are to look at the challenges we used to face before, now nobody's saying they are not there. The materials are there. People are voting. There's no violence. At least so far it's peaceful. Allegations of voters' inducement remains at the realm of rumor. Nobody has actually seen it from the reports coming from the field. So I think it's still, if it continues like this, I think it's still...
We are waiting to see INEC's report at the end of the day, as well as electoral observers' report with regards to this, because the reports of voter inducement is not just in one place.
Exactly.
We saw that also where Sarah was, where the people were showing, voting and showing, and then they said they moved somewhere else. But EFCC is meant to be present to also monitor all of those movements at the end of the day. But let's also perhaps look at what this also speaks to, the matter of how electoral parties, political parties, are also ensuring that their members understand what it is, talking about the role of political parties in also creating awareness and also being part of it. We saw one of the governorship candidates where Sarah was saying that these people they said they will vote for me. They said they will vote for me, and all of it was just having that conversation. So there was a back and forth with one other person there. He was saying they are asking the voters to go somewhere and all of it. They were telling them to vote a particular party. How the role of political parties in this process is. Have we been able to outgrow this, well, let me use the words of Anthony Killer, partisanship to ensure, and how is that also impacting on our process to ensure we have a smooth process? Can we really separate ourselves from that?
Yeah, it's extremely impossible, except you're asking people to relate to issues devoid of their own emotions.
That's what it's supposed to be in an ideal situation.
It's an idealism. It's not real. Look, go to any democracy in the world. You and I can see the emotional situation in America currently. Some people are yet to get over the decision of the majority of Americans. Yeah. Still now, they are yet to get over it. So, people relate to issues emotionally. Then the other factor is you need to look at individual personal construct psychology. And that also drives the reaction of political parties. Because those who are leading those political parties, those who are directing their affairs are human beings. They also have their own, disposition when it comes to personal construct psychology. Yeah. So therefore, you are likely going to see people saying, the nature of politics is partisanship in nature. They want to win, the other party wants to win, this other party wants to win. So the leadership of those parties will only embark on orientation, that will promote their own interest, not necessarily for democracy. The goal is for them to win. Whereas the real idea is to promote democracy.
Right.
And that can better be done. That is why people say, look, INEC should be the one doing that. National orientation agencies and some other civil society groups should be the one doing that. If you expect politicians who are active players, to actually, orientate people towards, discharging their civic responsibility, then we are deceiving ourselves. They will only do it with a view for them to win election. It's about their own objective. They have a reason for engaging with that process. So I think it should more or less be civil society organizations, INEC, maybe National Orientation Agency, that should be in charge of voters' education.
Now, you didn't actually land on your thoughts on how to phase out voter inducement. I said, do we have enough laws to phase it out? Why are we not implementing the laws? And INEC has also called for a Special Offences, Electoral Offences Commission. Do you agree with that part?
I'll crack a joke. We have EFCC, Economic and Financial
Crimes
Commission. We have ICPC, Independent
Corrupt Practices.
It's all about corruption. What about bribery? You have bribery and corruption now. Whoever offers a bribe should also be affected. But that's just on a light. Now, what you see with this issue of voters inducement, it's an integral part of presidential system of government. Look, when you create a field, and you expect 2 players or 3 players to play in a football field the size of a football field rather than 11 players on each side, then you will overwork that system. The current system is so expensive and is tailored towards winner takes all. So everybody wants to give it what it takes to win that election. So it has an inbuilt system of inducing voters, whether intended or unintended. Because at the end of the day, if I lose the election, I have lost everything. Even those who are supporting me, those who share my viewpoints, will not have any representation in government or have any say. That is why some people prefer parliamentary system. That is, if you score 20%, party A scores 20% of the vote, you have 20% representation in parliament, so that the views of those who supported you will still be heard. If you have 50% of the vote, share of the vote, you'll still be represented to the level of 50%, you know, and then you can now negotiate who heads the country, looking at programs, you know, sharing the program, so that a greater number of people get represented. Under the presidential system of government, it does not matter. If you win the presidential election with 25% of the vote, you will be the one to rule the country. The views of the 75% will not be represented. So these are part of the problem. When you have a winner takes all, it leads to a certain level of desperation, which may involve violence, voters' inducement, and so on and so forth.
Now, talking about the issue of voter inducement, poverty, the elephant in the room. But in this country, we've tried different ways to tackle poverty, but it has not worked. Over time, we've tried NAPEP, we've tried You Win, you've tried all different kind of names, but it has not worked. If you're to suggest a solution in arresting this issue of poverty, what will it be?
No society has succeeded in eradicating poverty. Not even United States of America.
But to bring it to
a minimum, you can reduce poverty. You can increase the number of people who are, you know, outside the poverty level. For instance, we have. Let me give you a good example. The major issue the whole world face now. We all know why more people are suffering now for 3 reasons. One, we had the COVID, which led to closure of businesses, and that reduced, you know, the GDP and the output from many industries and farmers. We also have the Russia-Ukraine war, which I suspect is primarily responsible, you know, for the downturn in the economic affairs of the United States, which people reacted to. Say, whoever wants to solve this war will rather vote for the person. Then you have the tension in the Middle East with the Houthis, you know, attacking shipping lanes. So ships are forced to go around South Africa, leading to 25% increase in cost of goods, you know, coming to different parts of the world, including Nigeria. So therefore, that is exacerbating poverty. So when you look at those 3 issues, in conjunction with the fact that economy was already comatose, you know, it was prostrate over a year ago, you will understand why there's poverty. But what we need to do is to engage, you know, economically, you know, with the process of ensuring that every single Nigerian is able to have something doing. And what the best way to do that is to, you know, look at agriculture, go back into agriculture. Diversification, promote agriculture, get more people engaged with a view to reduce poverty in Africa.
But if security is not provided, how do they...
Exactly.
But we need to go on break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation here. Stay with us.
45 days since the last day of last season. We are ready to do it all again.
Biodun is having the season of his life. Brilliant! Just brilliant! That is quite something!
Stay connected for all the football you want, starting from 5,100 naira per month.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's still a special coverage of the Ondo governorship election. And like we mentioned earlier, we have our correspondents scattered across the state, bringing us up to speed with developments there as the process goes on. We have joining us now Sarah Ayeku, who is in Okitikupa, Ondo South, to bring us up to speed with developments. Sarah, quickly talk to us. What more do we need to know at this point? I hope there is no drama at this point.
So I brought you to a place with less drama, but a lot of people. So you see the population here. So I'm in another local government, not too far from Okitikupa local government. This is Irele local government. And so this is a polling unit 001, Ward 6. Methodist Primary School to be specific, and you can see the number of people at this particular polling unit. So we're expecting to see about 803 voters at this polling unit. So you can imagine what the security operatives have been going through since morning, trying to control the crowd. In this particular polling unit, there is a bit of order because you see that they barricaded the voting area, but the voting area is still very crowded with a lot of people. There is no demarcation for separate queues for male, females, persons with disability. We don't see that here. Everybody is on one queue, one man, one vote. That's what you see on this particular queue. So let me try and bring in one of the voters. He voted a couple of minutes ago, so I'm going to bring him on to share his experience and talk to us about what he thinks, what he has observed so far to this election. Thank you so much, sir. First, tell us your name and what's your observation of the election so far?
My name is Prince Olujimi Adekale Jaff, and I came all the way from Canada because of this election.
From Canada just for this election?
Yes, just for this election. And so far, the election has been going smoothly. As you can see, the whole crowd are here. Everybody's conducting themselves peacefully, and I'm very sure in the next few hours, the election here will be over. This is Unit 1, Ward 1. Yeah? Unit 1, Ward 1 in Irele government. This is Methodist Primary School, Ode Irele.
Cool stuff. So it's not Ward 6, it's Ward 1. Talk to us about your observation of INEC's conduct so far, and also security operatives. How have they been able to conduct themselves in this election?
The INEC function here have been so perfect, you know. Though
no beavers malfunction.
There some little hiccups of beavers not capturing the old people, but it's just I mean, minute. It's not a chunk of the people, just one or two like that, which is still very okay. You know, we are dealing with machine here, so we're bound to have one or two issues, hiccups.
What of the security operatives?
Security operatives are very, very okay. You can see everybody is conducting themselves peacefully. The military, the army, they are there. The police are on ground. The civil defense are on ground. And everybody is just, we're all one family here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, Veronica, right, you see the orderliness as against what we had in Okitipupa, where we had that chaotic scene. So the scene here is a bit different, where you have a polling booth area. So that's where the Beavers machine is, where you have them voting and accreditation ongoing. Of course, simultaneously, you have about 2 police officers around that area, ensuring that people do not overcrowd the INEC ad hoc staff. So this is the voting area where you get to print and then cast your vote. And then you go back to that area where the ballot box is to drop in your ballot paper. So here is a bit orderly as against what we saw in Okitipupa. Veronica.
So how about persons with disability? Have you seen anyone, and the elderly? How were they treated by the INEC ad hoc staff?
So we've not seen anybody yet with a disability. You know that INEC has tried to cater to that special category. For now, we just have one single queue, one on this side and then one on the other, but both male and females are on the same line. For the elderly, what they do is just bring them to the front. When they see an elderly person, they bring them to the front to cast their votes, and then that's it. It's not like there is a separate line or a separate queue for the older persons, but special consideration is given to the older citizens. But for every other person, right, it's one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, and then you have to queue. So in a couple of hours, the time is about 11 o'clock now, so in a couple of hours, by 2:30, everybody on the queue should have finished voting, because we're expecting to see about 803 voters in this polling unit. So any moment, that's about 2:30, we should see people off the queue. Hopefully, we don't get more people come out to join the queue by 2:30, and then we'll get to know who the next governor of Ondo State is after a long battle, because it's been a battle really for all of the contenders, particularly for the major political parties. It's been really contentious.
I just want us to speak to the persons, the demography of voters that I'm seeing. I'm seeing quite a number of young persons there. I don't know if you were able to speak with them on what the motivation is for them to turn out to vote.
You know, I'm really inspired. You know, I've seen a lot of young people on the queue. I spoke with one of them earlier this morning, that Okitipupa local government. She's a 20-year-old canvassing. She's a party canvasser, so she's looking out, telling voters to come out and vote for our own candidates. Not even for the major political parties now, for one of the for other political parties. So she is coming out as a party canvasser. She's a 20-year-old coming out to canvass, you know, for our party, and also to encourage people to come out. And when I asked her about why she decided to, you know, step up and take up the responsibility of canvassing for votes or looking out for being involved in the political process, she said it's time for the young people to be involved in the process. We've been laid back for too long, and so that's why she feels it's very important for her to be part and not just be on the sidelines, to be a part of the process, canvassing for our party candidates, canvassing and asking people to come out to vote, because she feels that this particular vote, with these votes, they can actually make a change and create that change they want to see in Ondo State.
And also, many of the persons you interacted with, have they shown, you know, faith and trust in the process, trust in INEC as well? And also, one more thing, for persons who have actually come out to vote, because I can see a considerable number of persons there, tell us, what are the expectations for whoever emerges winner?
There is like a tall list, like the wish list is very long, but everything all centers around the economy, right? So everyone is making demands, laying demands. Of course, good roads are part of the demands that they had put on that wish list. Good roads, healthcare system, improved healthcare system. Ondo State is very peculiar because most of the health workers are not really satisfied with their salaries, the mode of operation in the healthcare system. So they are looking forward to a time where the healthcare system would be more robust than it is right now. And so they are hoping that there will be better healthcare, better schools, little or no cost education for their children, but majorly agriculture and then the economy, because this is an agrarian community, right? And they are looking forward to that time where a man or woman can sustain his or her family. So everything all borders on economy. Everybody wants to live a better life. Everybody wants to get something new, from the governor. But let me just ask him, because he came from Canada. So I want to ask him why he did come from Canada and how significant this election is for him. Thankfully, he's still around us. But what really are your expectations for the new governor?
Well, my expectation for the new government of Ondo State is development. Understand? Government of the people. As we all know, today is not for campaign, but we know that by the end of the day, the best candidates will emerge. And I'm very sure that we are going to start reaping the dividend of democracy in Ondo State.
What, in specific terms, what are you looking out for? Okay. So like in 4 years, right, what would you like to see compared to what we've seen under Accreditation?
Yeah. In specific terms, I want to see the Diaspora Smart Village, which is one of the laudable initiative of Mr. Governor, Diaspora Smart City in Akure, to start functioning. And also, our bitumen is here. We are resting on gold mine. We are the second largest in the whole world.
That's bitumen.
Bitumen.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm looking for bitumen. So I'm looking for a government, especially a government that will bring investors where our bitumen can be explored. We have it in large quantity. Understand? We are the second largest in the whole world. Canada, where I came from, more than 40% of their dependence is on bitumen.
All right, thank you so much. So he has talked about the fact that Ondo State has large quantity and deposit of bitumen. And so we're hoping that the next governor, of course, will come up with very specific initiatives and not just pulling out skill acquisition programs that may not be quantifiable or beneficial to the people of Ondo State.
Sarah, on the queue, I could see some very young boys there. I don't know if you could just speak with them. I don't know if they're up to 18, what their age is really, to ask them what the motivation is for them. They are on the queue behind you there, some very young boys. Yes. Can you quickly speak with them?
So that we get a sense of what you're trying to talk about. Excuse me. Show vote Lenin. So this is his voter card. You are how old?
18 years.
It says he's 18. So the fact that you see him really looking little does not mean he's a young boy. No. So he has shown us his voter card. Your name is... What's your name? Kaya de Oluwaseun. That's on the voter card you see Kaya de Oluwaseun Sheyifumi. That's what you see on it. Yeah. So that's why you have young people on the queue. So, and a lot of them, of course, are ready for this election, and that's why they are on the queue.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed. We needed to know how young they were, because they were looking way younger than 18 on the queue, and the law says you must be 18 before you are able to cast your ballot. But interesting developments there. Someone coming all the way from Canada to cast his ballot just to be a part of the process. And he mentioned what he's expecting.
Yeah, he actually spoke about the need to develop the economy in that area around the bitumen. Canada, I can now see the connection between, well, based on his own interest. Canada has the world's largest deposit of bitumen, the largest belt, followed by Nigeria. And that belt, spread from Imota in Lagos State through Ayepe in Ogun State down to Ondo State, down to Irele, where he's voting currently, to Irele. So I can see where it's coming from that angle. But the problem is when you talk about the dirty fuel that people talk about, when you hear some in the oil sector talking about dirty fuel, that's where it's from. It's from bitumen. And Canada is largely responsible for that. Right. It's not the clean oil, that's...
Well, he is looking at how we can explore the bitumen.
Yes, we can build so many industries.
For our economy, because we've been talking about how it's important we diversify and also look at how we improve our economy.
Oh, you can get a lot of things from bitumen, asphalt, oil, and some other derivatives. So I think that's his own primary interest. But when you look at it overall in the South, in that particular area, including in Irele, you realize that the issues are mainly the education, health, road, and the economy, agriculture. But the idea of developing the bitumen, they've been on it for so many years.
And also,
people have been flirting.
Isn't it ironic? The second largest deficit of bitumen, and they talked about issue of bad roads.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's ironic.
Ironic, yeah.
Really.
You remember there was a time we used to import asphalt into Nigeria before Marwa became the governor of Lagos State, if you remember clearly. Yeah, but we own the second largest belt in the whole world.
Interesting, but let's also talk about the participation of young persons there. We saw them on the queue. I really wanted to know if they were up to that age. Like we mentioned, there is the 18 age gap, and it's good to see. I don't know how encouraging it is for you, although they made a large chunk of those who collected their PVCs. And if you are to look at that, young persons getting to say they want to be a part of the process. What does that say?
Yeah, it's quite very encouraging because at the end of the day, about 60%, almost 60% of our population are young people.
Yes.
So they really need to get involved, no matter how we look at it, whether at the level of voting or at the level of participation, seeking elective offices. Young people really need to get involved. If they don't engage with the process, other people will decide things for them. People like you and I, who may not necessarily share their aspirations or see things from their viewpoint, will be the one making decisions on their behalf. So it's encouraging to see that at least some young people are beginning to engage with the process.
Now, you talked about factors that could determine the winner of this election. But looking at all of those factors, do we expect to see litigations after this process?
It's extremely rare in Nigeria not to see. Yes. Look, it's extremely rare. Even when you get United Nations to conduct the election, some people will still challenge it. It's the nature of presidential system of government. It's winner takes all. And then you have thrown in every single thing. Some people have sold property, some other people have invested heavily, and if you fail in that bid, you will look at whether you can overturn it. Lawyers are there waiting to tell you about technicalities. We didn't say you didn't win the election. He won the election, but there are technical loopholes.
There are loopholes, yes,
things that
we
they didn't comply with. Yes. So you now see that level of desperation coming from our people. So look, it's better than going to war. I would rather have people challenging results in court than arranging for talks to start beating people up or attacking, their opponents.
All right. Speaking about that, let's look at security and how we have tried to ensure that people are safe. 22,000 deployed, the police force, and then we see NSCDC saying 6,000. There are those who have questioned it has been militarized, the process being militarized, and I am saying, does that even really necessarily guarantee the safety of the voters and the process at the end of the day? Because we saw what happened in Edo State. Despite the number of security personnel that were deployed, we still had pockets of issues here and there.
Yeah. I am against militarization of democratic space.
Is that what it is? Should we call it as that in the first
militarization of
democratic space? Yes. To be honest with you, you do not need... Look, in other climes, maybe because I've lived elsewhere, it's a seamless process. You won't even see a single policeman around. You just walk in and vote.
What is responsible?
And then you walk away, and at the end of the day, the votes are tallied, and then, you know... But in our own situation here, you cannot blame the government or blame security agencies. You have a situation where people openly threaten.
But we didn't get that in Ondo, for instance.
There was a level of threats.
Really?
But not as severe as in Edo, to the extent of even a police officer was shot in Edo.
Yes.
The police will be so anxious and said, look, what then happens to ordinary people who are not police officers without... So one can understand from that angle. But when you really look at it, politicians are the real cause of the problem. They are not willing to play by the rules because of their level of desperation. Who would you blame for talks? Politicians. It's the political class. They are the ones that create that tense situation in a way that the government or the security services are forced to respond, you know, in the way and manner in which they are responding. And again, it's due to the nature of politics we are playing, the presidential system of government.
Again.
That's what it is. It's too expensive, and it's winner takes all. So everybody gets so desperate, you know, to ensure that things go in their favor. And then you have the security agencies saying, no, you have to play by the rules. And then in order to enforce the situation, then they have to have a massive presence. The other factor is the issue of voters turnout. Without the physical presence of those security forces, many people will not turn out because they are afraid of they'll get attacked or they will lose their lives. Don't forget, we used to have a period when some people just get to the polling booth and snatch the ballot box.
Ballot box, yes.
After people have voted and start, you know, running away, shooting into the air. Well, we no longer see that again because the physical presence and the sheer number of the security services, you know, has helped to deal with that situation. But to be honest with you, I even think we can do better by creating a climate where we do not need, you know, security services, you know, just to ensure that people...
So do we have to change our system from presidential system for us to be able to achieve that?
Yes, yes. Look, we used to have parliamentary system in Nigeria in the 60s. Please go and check. We don't have anything like this. Look, when it comes to parliamentary system, you're only campaigning in your own constituency, maybe your local government. You know, and that's where you are restricted to. People who vote and you know the result, rather than presidential system, which is heavily expensive, and then you have to campaign all over.
All right, Professor Kila said something before you joined in the conversation. He talked about scrapping INEC. But I want to have your own, for us to have a better election. Do you agree with him?
You need an umpire.
Scrapping INEC and bringing out a different, you know, electoral umpire.
Look, not from Nigeria. Whoever you are bringing in will be a fellow Nigerian like us.
So what are you suggesting? Overhaul?
So is it ingrained in Nigerians to do certain things?
No, I think when you look at the situation with INEC, Nigerians find it difficult, some Nigerian politicians find it difficult to reconcile with INEC. They would rather set the rules themselves and then expect other people to follow that rules. Look, no matter what we think, INEC seems to have done a lot better than the INEC we used to have in the past. If you remember the days of FEDECO, Federal Electoral Commission, you know, and that's not what we have. If you look at the state INEC compared to federal INEC, I think the federal INEC has done a lot better. Go to all the states INEC. They just, you and I know how those figures come out.
It's a different story.
It's a different story. So federal INEC, they have done a lot. They have, you know, to the extent that people are now advocating that federal INEC should be conducting state elections. So why, at this point, when people have had confidence in federal INEC, why should it be the time when we need to scrap it?
Or unbundle it.
Or unbundle it.
So what are you
I don't agree.
So what are you suggesting for us to have?
We only need to look at the weaknesses. That will always be a problem with any system. What you do is you look at the problems and then how do you prefer solution? We used to have, look, do you know what beavers have done now? It has eliminated a lot of bottlenecks. There will still be challenges. What we need to do is go back, look at those challenges. How do we improve the situation better? You don't scrap it simply because you have one challenge in one place or the other.
Throwing away with the baby with the bathwater.
Should we also maybe a little review on the Electoral Act?
The Electoral Act is very, very clear.
Is it a perfect one, or is it something that needs to...
There is nothing that is perfect. Even if you look at one of the oldest democracies in the world, if not the oldest, America, they still keep having amendments. You hear Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. So we still keep amending laws because things are changing.
Okay.
Life is dynamic. So there are issues that will crop up that you need to address through legislation. Let me give you a good example.
Okay.
The era of IT is in here. Prior to 1980, I don't think anybody knows much about IT, and it has to be regulated. So it means you have to create new laws, to cater for all that, regulate the social media one way or the other. So you continue to amend any constitution. So INEC, the electoral rules will continue to be amended in line with challenges.
Interesting. Let me just quickly update our viewers on developments out of this election. So far, Ondo State Deputy Governor Dr. Laide Adelami, we mentioned earlier, has cast his vote in Igoroko 2, Ward 3, Unit 16 in our local government area. At about 9:40 a.m., Dr. Adelami joined a queue of voters waiting to be accredited, and thereafter was in line alongside members of his immediate family to cast his vote. Now, he spoke with newsmen after the exercise of his civic duty. The Deputy Governor asked residents of Owo and the people of the state to come out to vote. And then a former Deputy Governor of Ondo State and one of the candidates in the election, Agbola Ajayi, cast his ballot at Unit 4, Ward 2 in Kiribo, Eseodo local government area of Ondo State at about 11:15 this morning. It took some time before he could be accredited with the BVAS machine. Speaking with journalists after the voting, Mr. Ajayi said INEC needs to do more to conduct a credible election. He complained about the slowness of the BVAS machine, describing it as a ploy to discourage voters. Well, he also complained about vote buying, which he said occurred in many polling units. On the security situation, Mr. Ajayi said that they were up and doing, but wondered why some military men have to be situated close to his house. That's quite an interesting development here. We're beginning to see some issues here and there that might be used at the end of the day to say, oh, these are the issues that were ploys against me and all of that. It's talking about security men around his house, the beavers being slow at his polling unit. It could have been anything, didn't it?
Oh, look, beavers is a machine.
Right.
Anything can go wrong with beavers, with any machine. Having security men around his house, I don't think is a major issue. In fact, I would rather have the top, all the candidates better protected. They all have security men. Once you become a governorship candidate, you'll be given your own retinue of security hits and all that. So I don't think that should be an issue at all. I would be more concerned if a governorship candidate is not given security. Otherwise, it will leave that candidate exposed to being attacked by the talks of the opponent. So I don't think that should be a major issue. But irrespective of what, politicians, they will always
be politicians.
They will always be. They will look for one reason or the other because it's a winner-takes-all situation. There is no room to accommodate your opponent if your opponent loses the election. And that's one of the reasons I have against the national system of government.
All right, talking about improving the credibility of the electoral umpire, prosecution of election offenders. we don't really see that. Do you think that if that is put in place, it could actually improve, credibility of the electoral?
I remembered when Atairu Jega was the INEC chairman, at the end of the election, we had about, I think he spoke about 89,000 or 85,000, something in that figure, of offenders that will be prosecuted. He never saw the light of the day. Do you know why? Now, the hard dog staff that you have used, who has made a statement to the police, are you going to keep that hard dog staff simply because you want to convict? On a case of the last 2-3 years,
the process,
there are a lot of bottlenecks. The hard dog staff himself might be a lecturer somewhere, or might be somebody who's unemployed, who will simply take up that job opportunity for a temporary period. So how will you keep track of
elsewhere?
I could have moved elsewhere.
So also the policeman.
How would you keep track of all of them? By the time you go through a judicial system that is so slow, the man may have japa, to another country. And what then happens? You now have somebody accusing INEC of prosecuting them unfairly, also leaving INEC, exposed to, being sued. So it's a bit complex. We don't have special courts to handle election cases. They'll be taken to the same normal courts, that are already congested.
Now? Should we begin to look at
even if you have special courts? What about the cost of doing it? You set up the special courts, you need the judges. Where do you get them from? Then you need the policemen. It takes a lot of time for every prosecution. You need INEC officials.
Absolutely.
So how would you be able to ensure all this? That does not mean we should leave offenders.
Of course, there has to be some level of accountability.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right. But we have never, it seems, is a kind of tacit agreement, amongst the ruling class. Everybody, including politicians, during elections, make sure nothing happens to you. Otherwise, nothing would happen.
But what should be the way out of it?
The way out of it is we still have to do some prosecution, whether we like it or not. Even if we can't prosecute everybody, take the worst offenders, and it's a way of deterring people. Otherwise, it won't stop. Look, those who are arrested in Edo State for inducement, voters inducement, what has happened? If they are being processed through the criminal justice system and everybody can see that some people are being processed, it will act as a deterrent. It may not solve it, but at least it will reduce it, in my view. So the idea that the complexities, the difficulties in prosecuting people, on election crimes, it's not helpful at all. But the reality of the matter is whoever infringes the law must be dealt with.
Because leading up to the process, there's the peace pact that they come to sign, and that one expects should be what guides them. Yes, we know that it is not backed by law, but everyone expects that the politicians should, with their conscience, ensure that they pass the message across to their members, their followers, their supporters, whoever it might be, that we need to have a peaceful process. As it is now, is the peace pact really getting us anywhere? That is the question.
The peace pact is, so far, is working in Ondo until the results are announced. That is when you know whether there will be violence.
Let's leave Ondo out of it now. Let's just look at other elections that we have had.
A lot depends on the politicians. A lot depends on them. There were problems during the last general election in Nigeria. We all know that. There are problems in different states in different ways. And that is not what a peace pact can take care of. A peace pact is just a mere declaration of intent. To say, look, yes, we commit to having a peaceful election. The leader is the one signing. What about the followers? Are they committed to peaceful election? The followers can choose. Don't forget, in each area, they have their leaders. The people they listen to is not necessarily the man that signed the peace pact. So there's that complexity.
Well, he should pass the message across.
Exactly. You can pass the message, but I'm also under pressure to deliver my area.
So who should hold the person signing? Like, who should hold...
Then what's the essence, really?
Exactly. Why? Is it just for moral compass to say that,
That's what it is. There is no way you can stop infractions if people are not being processed through the criminal justice system. There is no way. Because the culture of impunity, the idea of impunity will come in. So yes, if it happens during an election, that's it. Nobody will do anything about it. But if people are processed through the criminal justice system, and then people can see what has happened to those who have done it, that will act as a deterrent. So signing Peace Pact is not a substitute for processing people through the criminal
But if it is backed by law, will it change?
Even if it is backed by law, how do you prove the man that signed the Peace Pact is not the one that has committed the offense? It's not. It's his supporters. Can you hold him responsible for it?
Why not?
Oh, is there a law?
Perhaps we make provision for that.
Will there be a law that will say I should be held responsible for a crime I have not committed, which someone else
or committed by your followers?
Do I have absolute control over them?
Why not?
You should have absolute.
No, don't forget that political parties are association. Anybody can freely join.
Right.
It's up to you. So how do I have absolute control over your conduct? It's a bit complex.
So we found ourselves in a complex situation, yet we are looking for accountability and to also look at having a seamless, transparent process where people can trust and be a part of. So back to the process now. Do you also think that INEC should be unbundled in such a way that, according to Anthony Kila, he said INEC should be unbundled, perhaps brought to the level of maybe the states where people, the load will be taking off INEC as much as possible, because it seems INEC has a lot it is handling.
When you actually look at INEC as presently constituted, INEC has responsibility for voters' education. If you're thinking of unbundling INEC at all, it's just that responsibility for voters' education that should be taken out, and given to another separate agency, strictly responsible for that. But when you look at INEC as it is today, what else are you going to remove from it, if not voters' education? What else?
Perhaps the registration of the PVCs.
Look, the registration of PVCs should have been a seamless process. You don't need to unbundle INEC for that. We know the cause of the problem. It's right from the registration of births and deaths.
You said we should give that to the banks.
Exactly.
Handle.
The banks?
Like with BVN,
let it be linked to the BVN.
No, look, right from the process of births, if you have a good centralized data system for births and deaths, what you see is that you can predict the number of people who in 18 years' time will be eligible to vote, plus or minus, that will be eligible to vote. And through that, you already know that people are not coming with fake age, minus.
Because it's already in the database.
Yes. So you can easily have an audit trail right up to when they were given birth to the point of being eligible to vote and up to the point of the... When you look at the BVN, it should be automatic. Once you attain age 15 in secondary school, you should have your BVN being issued to you automatic from school because there's an audit trail.
Exactly.
There's a trail. So if we are able to create that, it's right from school. You have your, everybody knows your history. They know how you manage to get that up to the point when you now become 18, eligible to vote. The system will pick it up automatically. It will be a seamless process. But what we have currently is that we didn't create a seamless process, a centralized process. We take a little bit, give it to the bank, do BVN, take a little bit, give it to National Identity Management Commission, take a little bit, the same voter system, give it to INEC and said, so you can use voter card here, you can use your NIN here, you can use your BVN here. It doesn't work. So what we need to have is a centralized system, a centralized identification system, which has a clear audit trail right from birth to the point of need. I will agree with that. So when you look at the issue of voters' card will not necessarily come in because your card will come automatically when you are 18.
But do we have the structure for that as we speak?
We can build it. We don't. But
Is it doable?
It's doable. We can. We can build it. All what we need to do is either create a law or come to an agreement with all the states of the Federation and create a centralized system right from the point of birth. It does not matter whether they give birth to you in Sambisa Forest or in one forest in Ogun State or anywhere. But you will go into the system. If you're a Nigerian, you will be captured right from birth. And that is what we are not doing currently. We know we do not have enough hospitals also. Don't forget that. But there are people still giving birth to people at home. But we've made some significant improvement in that area, particularly the, what do they call them, the traditional
birth attendants.
Yes. Many of, well, I don't know throughout the whole Federation, but I know that in Lagos and Ogun State particularly, they have trained them and linked them up, you know, with the system.
Really?
And we need to do that nationally. Yes, they do get even certification.
Yeah.
So, and we now have a national traditional medicine board. So I think it's part of what they can engage or get them to do nationally to make sure that they are all linked with the current orthodox health system. If you're able to do that, we'll be able to capture all that straight away, and then they go into the system. There's a clear trail of when they enter school up to when they become adults or they get their BVN or what have we, and then up to when they get their voter's card. I will agree with that, but I think the only thing they can take away, apart from that, from INEC, is the voters' education.
Perhaps
but I thought political parties are supposed to do voter education,
including INEC.
Really, INEC.
They have a whole section for voters' education.
Yeah.
INEC has a
because the political parties are not really doing it.
The political parties are doing it in their own ways, not necessarily what the law envisages.
Right.
In their own ways. As far as they are concerned, come out and vote. They are saying, come out and vote for me. They are not saying, come out and vote for good governance. No. Come out and vote for me. That's what politicians will tell you.
That's their own kind of...
That's their own understanding of it.
No, I think...
Anyway, let's quickly cross over to Ayodeji Moradeyo to bring us up to speed with developments where he is. Ayo, where are you now? What's happening? We hear the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, just arrived at Ward 3, Unit 17, where you are. Quickly speak with us.
All right, I'm at Okiagbe, and currently I have the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, with me. I will assess the conduct of the election so far. So far, so good. I will assess the conduct of this election.
Well, thank you very much. As you can see, it's been a very peaceful election. People came out to vote, and it's been very peaceful. And INEC actually think well again because as early as very early, INEC set up facilities and as you can see, the vote was peaceful. And we're more of celebration and jubilation.
So how we assess the conduct of the security agency?
No, very professional. You can see, you've been, members of the media, and I believe you've moved around. You can see that it's peaceful, everybody. In fact, we don't have crisis. It's only when there's a crisis that it's been very peaceful. So I'm optimistic by the grace of God, and we have always said, this election is going to be, and you can see.
All right, Minister of Interior there, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, at Ward 3, Unit 17. He has just cast his ballot and is talking about the process, saying it has been seamless and that it's peaceful. And we see a number of people now. It seems that most people are now coming out, turning out to cast their ballot, which is quite encouraging with the numbers we are seeing as the day progresses. But talking about the peacefulness of the election, some would say that what could have changed? Because Ondo State, if you look at past election, there's been issues of violence and all of it, but that seems to, so far so good, seems to have changed.
Yeah, I think Ondo State is noted for, is very volatile and is noted for resisting imposition.
Right.
And that is why I think if you look at all the key actors, right from the president to the candidates, including INEC, the IGP, and all interested stakeholders kept emphasizing on one thing. Look, peace let the process be free and fair and peaceful. They know at the end of the day, people will accept any outcome, from a very fair process. So because of that, you are not likely going to see major problems. But if they think that the process is being doctored or is being rigged in favor of one candidate or the other, then there will be problems. And that's why I think all the security services are committed to the fact that there will be no problem by ensuring that their officers are neutral, they are not partisan, do their job professionally.
So do you think it was a good idea that, although the law does not recognize them, talking about Amotekun now, that it was a good idea for them for the IGP to say, you have to step aside?
I don't necessarily agree with the IGP on that. I will tell you why. Okay. The Amotekun has been created through legal instrument, the law. So
but when it comes to elections, they are not recognized.
If they are not recognized when it comes to election, but when it comes to dealing with criminals and kidnappers, they are recognized. How does that make sense? I think it's just the police trying to protect their traditional territory. That's what I think it is. And then distrust of politicians to say, oh, maybe they might want to use Amotekun one way or the other. But I don't think that is real. We've never seen any evidence of Amotekun being used to rig election anywhere. So I think this is just about police protecting their own territory. I don't see that as real.
Well, they are saddled with the responsibility, so they have to take charge. And
why would Amotekun be expected to go into the police have the responsibility for crime, for police?
No, we are talking about election now.
Election.
That's what I'm saying. For policing elections, they have the same responsibility as policing crime in society. So why would they allow Amotekun? Of course, they cannot stop Amotekun because it has been created by law. But why would now say Amotekun cannot be involved in policing elections?
But we can't also...
The goal not to ensure that there is no violence.
But we can't also ignore the fact that they could be influenced by maybe politicians or the governor or something.
What about the police? Have we not seen that in Nigeria?
But they are meant to be impartial.
The governor does not control.
They are meant to be impartial, and they say that they are the people's friends.
We have had all these allegations going to the... It has happened in Nigeria.
Yes.
We have had abuses. You've forgotten the days of Sunday Adewusi when he was IG of the Nigerian Police Force. So we have had all these things before. I think it's more or less about the police protecting their territory. Amotekun goes into the bush to confront kidnappers. But I agree that those who are trying to protect their territory will continue to look for how to undermine any state outfit.
You think it's undermining?
What do you think it's about? Why is...
It's to ensure that there is a seamless, from my perspective, there is a seamless process in terms of securing the whole state and ensuring that the laws, they follow through with what the law requires. The laws, recognizes the police and every other sister agency when it comes to this.
You are only talking about a unitary system. Is it that we want to live in a federation or not? Do you have state police?
We don't.
Even in America, where we copy the presidential system of government, you can have local government police. A university can set up its own police force.
All right.
So where did we get the idea that in a federation, that is only the coordinating center alone that should be in charge of security in the states? Where did we get this idea from?
Right.
Are we no more in a federation?
That's what we are.
So if the states come out with a law and say, look, I'm creating this security outfit, why would we say no? Now, is it not the same states that are keeping all different federal security outfits, ERS, RRS, and all manners of RS all over the whole place, buying guns, buying armored vehicles, buying uniforms? So what are we talking about?
But this is a peculiar situation.
Exactly.
It's an election.
Look, when you have state police eventually, if there is election, will the federal police...
Now, at that point, when we get to that point, we will definitely know how to cross the bridge.
So the fact of the matter is we need to concede one thing, that if we want to practice federalism, we must be ready for all its full components. We cannot continue to say, oh no, we live in a federation, when in reality, our disposition is towards unitary
system. Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't say, look, in America, states have their own Supreme Court, while you also have the federal Supreme Court. In the same way, our local governments created. Local governments are not part of the law. They are not part of the Constitution. The local government, if you and I decide that here we want to have a local government, we only need to agree on, there are rules which you follow, and then you agree on how you are going to fund it. Then they will devolve our services, education, health, everything to us, and we'll get a top-up grant. Right. That's how it's formed, not like the way we're doing it currently. So I think the issue is still about true federalism. And at a point, I expect the Nigerian police force not to embrace it, because what you're saying is they should embrace a structure that would, reduce the empire from what it is.
Empire.
State police, yes. However, it is good, but it also has its merits and demerits. Because to some might think, oh, the governor or the politicians of that state might be able to influence, to their favor. The merits could also be, it would also help in the fight against crime and criminality. But in this regard for election, and probably a governor is involved, he pays the piper here, he pays this security agent, this local police that we are talking about. Why wouldn't they do things in his favor?
They have made so many allegations against the Nigerian police force. I'll be surprised if we don't have allegations coming out from this election too. But it doesn't have to be true. That's the way of politicians. They will come out with issues.
So is it not better to reduce the allegation and say, what?
It does not solve
exactly. Just stay where you say. Yeah,
not having state police does not solve the problem. Why are we talking about state police? It's simply because the current federal police has not been able to solve the problem. That's the only reason. Look at crime going up. How do you have a community policing system with a federal police? They are incompatible. When you can post somebody from Kano straight down to Enugu to be the DPO, what does he know about the local environment? So there are issues which we've all identified. Even those who traditionally were opposed to state police are now supporting it. So, but I understand the perspective of the Nigerian police force. It's just like asking National Assembly to say, look, we need a unicameral legislature. Which one of you would?
Dead on arrival.
So that's what it is for the Nigerian police force. So any opportunity to chip in, to say, look, this is not okay. Look, after all, if an Amotekun violates the rules, he will be arrested now. It's the same thing with other services. If a police officer is aiding a politician, he will be arrested. But you cannot say because a police officer has been arrested, then the police should not get involved. Or the security, civil defense should not be involved. You cannot say that.
It's a serious situation.
We do not have enough policemen anyway. You need 2 million. You have only just about 400,000.
And they're overstretched.
And then you have all that services who are willing to help. The police is overstretched. Don't forget, this is just one election.
We have 22.
In an election where you use federal road safety corps, we use federal road safety corps.
I know.
So how can we say, having another state outfit backed by law,
by state law?
Yeah, by state law, is not desirable. I think they are desirable.
Well, perhaps when the bottlenecks with regards to these matters are resolved, we would see their involvement.
But bottlenecks could also involve that are even still trying to pay minimum wage, and you're now bringing a state police. How would they fund it?
No, when you have
there are different issues to it.
Yeah, eventually, when we are drifting towards that, because you only need to look at the cost of crime. It outweighs the cost of policing.
Anyway, it's been an interesting conversation here with you. Our own time is up, as it is. Exactly. But you are still here because there's so much to be said with regards to the Ondo election Our correspondents are still out there bringing us up to speed with the developments there. Sarah Yeku is still there. We still have Ayo Zubaku as well as Ayo Moradeyo and every other person out there to bring us up to speed with developments across Ondo State. We will be handing over now to Kemi Fola Adeyemo and her partner, who will be taking over from here to keep you updated with developments from Ondo State. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, but the show still continues right here with TVC.
Well organized. The turnout is massive.
It's been very peaceful so far. I'm very excited with what I've seen so far. The turnout is massive, is encouraging.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen?